Hello, my name's Ajay and you're watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. Today we're joined by Matthew Huish, who is a second-year undergraduate biochemistry student. He's also the president of the University College of London Interfaith Society. He's 23 years old, is married and is the father of a young son. Matthew, thank you for joining us on The Defining Moment.
Hello.
Well, today's topic is about youth engaged in interfaith, and I know you've just recently come back from a service project in Israel.
That's right.
However, before you tell us all about that, can you also share with us, first of all, a defining moment from your life?
As you mentioned, I have a wife, and a few years ago, basically I was making my mind up. I was making the decision, should I commit to this relationship? This was a point in my life where suddenly I was free somehow. I wasn't within the constraints of my, let's say, my parents' family. I wasn't constrained by my education. I had left secondary school, and all of those somehow social norms were behind me, and I was a very free person in some respects. And I had to make this decision whether or not to commit to such an enormous responsibility, an enormous commitment. And for me, this was a very difficult decision to make in my life. And to be fair, to be quite honest, I had a lot of self-doubt about my capability as a husband, as a father, even as an individual. I felt as if perhaps I'm not cut up for life in general. Even I felt as if I'm not so important. I'm not that great. I'm not that good at doing many things. Maybe I do okay at school, or I've got certain skills. But when it came to relationships, that was a time in my life where I felt as if actually I was failing at relationships quite considerably. And so for me to make this kind of commitment to what I felt was one of the most important relationships in my life, then this was a very difficult decision for me to make. And it took quite a few months of soul searching to really be happy with who I am and be happy with the relationships in my life, particularly with my Heavenly Father. And for me, this was actually an important decision, which I did involve God in my decision. That I prayed about it, and I felt as if, is this what I want? Is this what you, God, is this what you want? And thankfully, my wife Natasha, she was very patient with me. She waited for me to make up my mind. And it was quite a leap of faith on my part, because obviously it's an unknown in committing myself to this relationship, especially because it's such a like one-on-one relationship. It's an exclusive relationship that I will never share with anybody else. So of course I was afraid. But I remember that the day we got married, that all those fears, all those doubts evaporated almost immediately. And somehow my heart was free to really fall in love with her somehow. And why is this my defining moment? Because that moment where all those fears and questions of self-doubt, like I say, they completely disappeared. I still was aware that I'm not the person who I want to be, and I'm still to this very day that there are things that I want to improve about myself. But I developed a certain element of confidence in my ability to challenge myself, that I had this self-belief that even if it will be difficult, and even if I'm not at the standard I want to be yet, I know I can raise up to that standard. And I know that my wife Natasha is going to help me to do that. And before committing to being married with her, I had no reason to believe that she would. I could not foresee if I would be a good husband to her, or if she would be a good wife to me. But thankfully the gamble paid off, and the 2.5 years of marriage that we've had so far have been wonderful. She's been a very supportive wife to me. Every difficult decision that we make together, and we make sure that we're agreed. And even at the time when we did get married, we didn't want to get married just for ourselves. that, you know, thankfully we shared this common understanding that our marriage, creating a family, was also for the wider community. And she supported me with that decision. And yeah, everything I do now is pretty much because of her, I would have to say.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Okay, well, let's get on to today's topic, which is youth engaged in interfaith. Now, you're obviously one of those youth. However, let's just go back to Britain itself. I mean, growing up in multicultural Britain, isn't interfaith learning just a natural process of one's development of life skills?
Although I would like to believe it is, unfortunately, at least based on my own experience, I would have to argue that it isn't. My own experience, I went to a Catholic primary school, a Catholic secondary school, and my experience in those schools, yes, I encountered people from different ethnic backgrounds, but we were all of, let's say, a similar religious background. And because of that, I would have to say that I didn't fully engage with people of an entirely multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious background. That even though on a day-to-day basis I may be commuting with people of different religions, different races, different backgrounds entirely, I don't necessarily engage with them. And so I think, you know, in the UK at least, the problems of this kind of lifestyle are emerging, that for 20, 30, 40 years, people of different backgrounds have been living together with relative calm, and I wouldn't say there's been majorly serious problems, but there are cracks in society where people are not fully embracing each other. And so, although I would like to believe that, you know, we do get that kind of good education here in London, especially where we have a complete variety of people of different backgrounds, that's not the reality, unfortunately, that we don't engage properly.
Why, as Prince Charles has recently been preaching, do we need to be passionate about improving interfaith dialogue?
Most of the dialogue is done between people of an older generation. I guess that's where my Interfaith Society comes in as a student body, trying to engage the young people of faith, even the young people of no particular faith. This is something that I feel strongly about. Improving interfaith dialogue, I think also we need to step away from the kind of Abrahamic dialogue that exists. There's a very strong foundation of dialogue between the three Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity and Islam. But where is the dialogue with people of other religious background, with the Vedic traditions, with the Buddhist traditions? Here in the UK, maybe those populations aren't so large, but I feel as if dialogue with them is also necessary.
Well, in a society where it's now politically incorrect for workers to wear a cross, is it the case that young people are afraid to talk about their religion?
I think most young people have the strong desire to engage in some kind of dialogue about what they believe in. I think all young people, from whatever background they come from, they grow up inheriting the morals of their society around them, the morals of their family, perhaps the morals of their religious background. And there comes a time where they have to make up their own mind about what they believe in, about what they feel is important. And it's useful to have an opportunity to discuss these kinds of things with other young people who aren't necessarily going to preach or indoctrinate them on very limited range of ideas, but to be open-minded and to be honest and non-judgmental with each other. So I think the desire is there to have dialogue and to discuss these issues of religion and their own religion particularly. But you mentioned this point that with the current climate of political correctness, I think that actually does have some influence and some effect on how free young people feel to discuss these kinds of things. Here in the UK, I think we're relatively lucky compared to some other European nations, where being religious almost is looked down upon, where it's almost looked at as a disease. You know, there's something wrong with you if you believe if you believe in God or if you believe in some kind of spiritual reality. Here in the UK, I think we're still fortunate in that people can practice a religious lifestyle and not feel threatened that their lifestyle is placing them in a position of severe discrimination. But at the same time, I feel as if young people will experience certain barriers from discussing honestly, because there might be a perceived fear about what other people think, about what other people might say in response to their ideas. Perhaps this is because of maybe ignorance about what other people believe. And myself as a young person, if I've been growing up in a certain kind of environment and there are people who are not from my environment, I don't know what they think or believe. And so with that ignorance, I might perceive that they disagree with me, that I can't speak openly with them in case they think I'm some kind of weirdo, or maybe even the other way around. I don't want to offend them in case I make some kind of irrational presumption about what their belief system is. So I think there is a balance, and here in the UK we're at a critical point where the balance could go either way, where I would hope that young people do engage in healthy dialogue and discuss matters of spirituality, or of religion, of faith. But I'm afraid that if this political correctness gone mad goes too far, then young people might be afraid to discuss openly, maybe even within their own community, about these kinds of matters.
Okay. Who are the heroes of interfaith work?
That's a very interesting question for me, because I'm quite a cynical person, and usually I don't want to consider anybody as my hero unless they really, unless I have evidence for myself that they are, worth listening to. Within my own community, I can consider certain individuals as people as my heroes of interfaith work, people who I have seen working very hard and very successfully bringing people together on a more global scale, the more familiar characters of history. I think perhaps Gandhi would be one of the key players of interfaith work. He himself coming from a Hindu background, and yet at a time of international unrest, he said, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Jew, I'm a Christian, I'm all of these things. For him, there wasn't really a difference. Okay, maybe there are some differences, but for him, he didn't see the need to be divisive about these different faith backgrounds.
Ultimately, do you see a one-world religion?
Honestly speaking, I don't. I'm learning. In my interfaith society, I'm meeting people and finding more and more, finding out more and more about them and the way that they practice their religious lifestyle. And what I see is necessary is that I believe everybody needs to follow a religious path. That's my opinion. And I feel as if following that religious path will help, as you said, all of humanity to grow towards a certain direction. I don't know if it's possible to ask everybody to follow the same religious lifestyle. I think even within a religious community, I see people who practice their religion in different ways. And so for me, I'm seeing even within my own faith community that there are people who practice their religious lifestyle differently. And so I don't think uniformity is something that we should aim towards. And I don't think that will happen. Having said that, I make the differentiation between uniformity and unity. While people follow a different lifestyle, but they're all following a certain religious path, if we're united together in what the common goal is, and we support each other and empower each other to have the necessary religious experiences that we need to grow towards that goal, then I think that's the key. And we don't need to have the same name of the religion in order to do that. I think people can continue practicing whatever tradition that they are currently practicing and continue to enhance their own personal experience of that religious tradition. But as I said, I feel as if unity between all people of all faiths towards a certain goal would be most constructive.
Ethnicity, race and gender seem to get a lot more respect and sensitivity from society. I think the recent series of Big Brother, where there was a big issue of racism blowing up and there was a lot of public turmoil, I think that was an illustration of that. Now, do you think that religion doesn't really stir up that same sense, or the defamation of religion doesn't stir up that same sense of righteous anger?
I would agree with you. I myself, as a religious person, I get frustrated by the way that, as you say, religion and religious views are not taken as seriously as the views of equality concerning gender, race, ethnicity. To be fair, it angers me. I'll be honest, it really angers me the way that people of religious communities seem to be discriminated against on a repetitive basis. It's a really interesting phenomena in our perhaps Western world, perhaps secularized world.
So Matthew, please tell us, what are the obstacles you face in doing this kind of 21st century interfaith work?
Well, at UCL, my university union has quite a bureaucratic system of doing things. So for me to set up my society took a whole year, basically, of doing the necessary paperwork and doing the fulfilling necessary requirements in order to be affiliated to the union. So that was my experience setting up my society. That I felt there was a lot of red tape to go through before I could actually start my student society.
So bureaucracy still exists?
Yes, I feel as if bureaucracy is necessary. I'm not saying that we should do away with bureaucracy. It helps. It makes sure that there's a filtration system to make sure that genuine and important student societies can do things properly. For me, it was an education to see how to do things properly.
So, nevertheless, do you think that today's younger generation has a better chance of developing a sense of unity, of cooperation, than the elder generation?
As a young person who probably doesn't know as much as I should know about the older generation, I would argue yes, we do have more of a chance, because I think our young people today experience more. The media and the communications is instant. We got YouTube, we got Google, we can find out anything at the touch of a keyboard button. And so I feel as if our young people are in an educated position where they can find out the information that they need to make decisions a lot quicker. Having said that, I am nervous. I'm a little bit afraid that although the chance is there, that we might not take it. And although I really want young people to create unity, I am afraid that there are things which are dividing our communities growing. And I'm afraid that they're going to take over our young generation. And that's going to be another generation gone to division and disunity.
It is a challenge, I think, for most of us to live by rules or by complicated laws that often we associate with religion. What are the common universal principles that the world's religions share? What have you discovered?
I feel as if a life of faith, a religious lifestyle, is a life of discipline, because without that religious lifestyle, we succumb to the temptations of the body. And not that the temptations of the body are bad. I'm a scientist, I'm a biochemist, I'm very aware of how important it is to fulfill the physical needs. But I think a religious lifestyle helps people to be aware of the spiritual reality, that life is ultimately short, and at the end of that life we will die. And that all that time, or even the very small time that we've got while we are alive, is preparation for the next life. And so I think all religions try to emphasize things which are important for the next life. Things like developing our heart in our relationships with each other and higher spirituality. And of course all the things that contribute to that, being respectful, being honest, being sincere. I'm sure there's a whole long list of things that you can attribute towards living a healthy spiritual lifestyle. And I think that's what every religion aims to do, to elevate every individual's spirituality to a level where they can be fit and ready and prepared for that day when they die.
Okay, and finally, Matthew, what is the role of service in interfaith learning?
Dialogue does something important. It's a first step. Without dialogue, then we're not even engaging, and that's a problem. So I definitely see the importance of dialogue as a first step to bring me together with you. But if we only remain at the level of dialogue, then we're just having a conversation which can be very philosophical and very abstract somehow, which doesn't actually give us the chance to really grow. Okay, maybe I understand you a bit through the words that you say, but surely by doing something together, we're actually experiencing our lifestyle. Your attitude is reflected through your behavior. By working together, I can learn a lot more about others. I can learn a lot more about myself, my own limitations, my own skills, and my own potential perhaps. I feel as if service work really gives the opportunity for people to do something good. And since all religions are encouraging us to do good things so that we can grow spiritually, surely taking people of faith and giving them the opportunity to do a project where they serve a community gives them the chance to grow, gives a chance for the community to grow, and gives everybody the chance to really learn something that they'll remember. Not a passing conversation that they had with somebody, but a real experience where they actually felt as if I did something, I contributed to something. And in years to come, they can look back at it and say it's still there, that my contribution is there, and my contribution to my heart, that the growth that I made in my heart is there. I feel as if that's a real education.
Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, Matthew. Thank you very much for coming on our show today.
Thank you.
And continue to be bold and strong in your interfaith endeavours. Well, you've been watching The Defining Moment for creating the culture of conscience. If you'd like to find out more, we're on the web at www.definingmoment.eu. Thank you for watching, and we wish you all the best.